What if our youth can grow up conscious and resilient? What tools would allow our children to be thriving and joyful? Welcome to the Growing Up Conscious Show with Kathleen Connor. Welcome back to the Growing Up Conscious Show. One of my targets for the show is to give interviews and just life stories and other tools and strategies to support youth to create the life they desire, especially during these times when there's so many distractions. So I'm hopping on today because I'm getting ready to do an interview with a woman named Emilia Benz next week. And I've been studying her work on and off for a couple of years. And I'm now in a community with her called Walk With Me Now, where I, play with other people with using various different tools. So in my discussion with her about her interview, I was looking at this whole idea of what I've heard her call, and other people as well, Lightworker traps. So I think I might be calling this show Lightworker Traps for Youth, but they could be a Lightworker trap for anyone, right? So I've noticed that, we've come up with this terminology called Lightworker, which can mean different things to different people. In Access Consciousness, I often talk about those people that are humanoids, that care about consciousness, would like to create a different experience on planet Earth, and care about expanding and change. So that's kind of how I would talk about this word light worker that some people use, where it's a way for people who are looking to create greater on the planet to stay clear and to be able to have conscious choice. And in order to do that, there are certain traps that get in the way at times, right? So like a trap could be anything that kind of pulls, it's kind of like a moth to the flame thing, right? So for instance, there's various different things when you're young that you might have capabilities or talents or just what is natural to you. Like I think kids are born with lots of conscious tools, but then they're kind of trained out of them by their culture. So let me give you the example of one. When you're young and somebody is saying something to you, but their energy doesn't match that. So like a really basic one, they're saying, I love you, but their energy is not matching that. Like they're doing something that is hurting you. That's like a very basic one, but usually it's just day-to-day things. And often people don't even know that they're saying something that they're not congruent with. So as a child, though, what occurs, I think, over time is that you start to think that your awareness is not accurate, or that you're not reading energy correctly, because here's all these people around you that you care about, or even if you don't care about them, and their words are not matching their energy. So then you start to think that there's something wrong with you, and you start not believing that you can follow the energy of something. I think one of the biggest gifts we can give kids as they grow up is continuing to follow the energy of, in Access, Access Consciousness, they talk about light or heavy, and that can be more complex than it sounds. But if you sense something kind of feels expansive versus contracting you, like allowing that energy to be one of your guides. Now, there's lots of things where opportunities are presented that sound great, but then they aren't. And I think it's one of those kind of traps that we can fall into when we're looking to expand our lives or expand something on the planet. and we hear about an opportunity, we follow it, but then it turns out to be not really a possibility. It's more like, not even that it was a scam, but it just didn't match us. So we always have to ask too, when there's things showing up in our world that seem like an opportunity, to ask if they're relevant to us personally, and also ask if it is, if what you're hearing about it is actually true or not. So I think another light worker trap in some ways is that we think people are going to be like us. So let's say, like for myself, I had a childhood where it was pretty safe and I felt taken care of. So I kind of went out into the world with what people might call rose-colored glasses. And luckily, it's not like horrible things have happened to me, but there's been times when I trusted people that I shouldn't have trusted because I came from this like, well, certainly that person will be like me, right? So you really have to be in the question with following the energy of a person instead of just like they're going to be like you, if that makes sense, because that can be a trap that we fall into. So if your child is not feeling quite right about being around somebody, talk to them about that and do your best to honor that if you can, because you don't want them to. I don't mean coming from like a point of view of like, I don't like that person because XYZ. That's coming from like being offended or a point of view or something like that, but more just actually the energy of it not seeming quite right. So allow kids to play around in their own way to get a sense of what is expansive for them and what's not, so that they don't, kind of fall into that energy of feeling like they have to make somebody happy. I'm sure you've heard that in many modalities, especially when they're talking about consent for certain things. There's so many times when those people that are looking for greater consciousness, it's easier for them to make somebody else happy than themselves. So that balance there of following your awareness and being clear on what energy you want to play with and when you don't want to play with. So there's that. And then there's also a lot of different things in the media that sound really wonderful. And I don't mean like an opportunity, like a job, like I was talking about earlier so much, but sound like the words are right. Just like I was talking about earlier, the words are right, but there's something about it that is a little bit twisted. So you can also teach your child, if something seems off, ask, is this a truth with a lie? Because what will often be put out to kind of hook people in media, whether it's alternative media or mainstream media, is they'll have something that they're saying that's true, but then they'll also have something in it that's not true. So you're thinking, oh, well, that seems like a great concept, but then there's something there that's not quite right. So you can also teach a child that's old enough, does that seem like a truth with a lie? What do you think? And let them gain their own awareness about that. The other thing that can be a trap for light workers if they're going to a traditional school is they stop listening to their body sometimes, because in traditional schools, you can't necessarily always go to the bathroom when you want to, eat when you want to. You're expected to sit still and be in your brain a lot, like maybe not your brain, your mind, like you focus on your mind a lot of the day. And that isn't necessarily natural for the body and not necessarily good for you overall as an infinite being, but it's just the way traditional schools are right now. So another kind of trap can be learning that you're supposed to be using primarily your mind to make your choices instead of, again, following the energy and asking questions like, will this create the future I desire? what will this create if I choose this? Um, you know, what's right about this I'm not getting? There's all sorts of great questions I've learned through studying access consciousness and other modalities that get you back into the following the energy instead of getting stuck in your mind. So that's the beginning of a conversation about ways that um, whether you're a kid or an adult, you can kind of get led down the wrong path. And I hope it's helpful for somebody watching. And I'm sure I'll continue this conversation later. But for now, that's what I have on my mind in regards to things to keep a watch out for in regards to where you can get your energy stuck instead of expanding out. So that's I think for today all I'm going to share, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.